I'm Rebecca Fleischaker. I'm Executive Director of Louisville Downtown Partnership, and welcome to our State of the Downtown event this year. I do want to let you know we have a record attendance, 530 of you who have come here to show us how important downtown is. Thank you for your support. Before we get started, I want to recognize some very important people who are here. We are super lucky to have a long list of them, so hold your applause. Mayor Craig Greenberg, who you will be hearing from in a bit. Our Police Chief, Paul Humphrey. We have Deputy Chief Emily McKinley, Assistant Chief Brian Elam. Councilman Ken Herndon, who represents District 4 and downtown. And we have several other council members in the crowd. Anthony Piagentini, Jennifer Chappell, Marcus Winkler, Paula McCraney, Ben Reno Weber, Khalil Batshon, Betsy Rui, and Andrew Owen. I'm not sure if I missed anybody else. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum? And we're honored to have some friends from representing our federal delegation today. Rob Givens, State Director for U.S. Senator Rand Paul. Amy Washburn, District Director for U.S. Congressman Morgan McGarvey. James Victory, Field Representative for U.S. Congressman Brett Guthrie. Board chairs of Louisville Downtown Partnership's 2 boards. Yes, we have 2. Downtown Development Corporation's Lance Gilbert, Louisville Downtown Management District's Andy Trinan. Many of our board members who are here. LDP staff, who I could not do this without. And lastly, I'm really looking forward to hearing from our guest speaker, Jeff Speck. Thank you all for your support and for your belief in downtown. And thank you to our sponsors who made this event possible, without whom we could not do this. Thank you to our table sponsors, 23 of you who brought your teams today. Thank you to our champion sponsors, Angels Envy, Baird, Block by Block, Fifth Third Bank, One Louisville, and Stockyards Bank. And a big thank you to our returning presenting sponsor, Republic Bank Foundation. I'd like to ask Steve Traeger, Executive Chair, to give a few remarks on their behalf. And while he's making his way up, I want to congratulate him here on being the recipient of GLI's Gold Cup at the annual meeting last week for what he's done for this community. Thank you, Steve.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and thank all of you all out there. At Republic Bank, obviously, we are a Louisville-based bank, and what happens here is very important to us. And one of the things that we believe in is not just to talk the talk with regard to Louisville and downtown in particular, but also to walk the walk. So I'm very proud that we have about 300 associates that are based in our 2 locations, our 2 facilities downtown. That includes about 130 that we've moved downtown moved to downtown in the last 2 years. So we're very proud of it. I know I'm preaching to the choir to an extent, but what happens in Louisville and what happens in downtown is very important to us because this is where we live, this is where we raise our families, and we want to continue to make it a great place. Thank you.
That is walking the talk when you bring your employees from the East End. There is no finish line in economic development. Development begets development. Progress begets progress. New ideas turn into even newer ideas. Once you're on a roll, things just start to happen. And it's the entire purpose of our organization to continue fresh and relevant ways to seed, incentivize, encourage, and advocate alongside the mayor's office for development that is meaningful to our entire community. And we are indeed on a roll. We have so much reason to be positive and optimistic. We've been singing the praises of bourbon for a few years now, but I want to brag on a few other things in our downtown too, like live music, the arts, and sports. I'm a big fan of live music and hit anywhere between a dozen to 20 shows or festivals a year. So making sure there are different kinds of venues in differing formats and differing sizes is important to attracting more shows and more people. Between KFC Yum Center, the Louisville Palace, Mercury Ballroom, 4th Street Live, Kentucky Center, and the Brown Theater, downtown hosted 425 concerts in 2025. And there is plenty of live music outside of downtown too, but that brings people to stay in downtown. Yes, believe it or not, I do leave the general boundaries of downtown. With the renewed contract with Danny Wimmer Presents, we have 2 weekends at Rival Derby, with Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life out at the fairgrounds, which also is a fun time to be in downtown. Louisville also is lucky enough to be one of less than a dozen cities in the U.S. to be home to all 5 major performing arts organizations. I'm going to say that again. We are one of only a few cities in the U.S. to have all 5 of the major arts performing organizations. That's a big deal. And they're all in downtown. In 2025, between the Kentucky Opera, Louisville Ballet, Actors Theater, Stage One, and Louisville Orchestra, there were 250 performances in our downtown. And these organizations have some staying power. Happy 75th anniversary to both the Kentucky Opera and the Louisville Ballet, and happy 90th anniversary to our award-winning Louisville Orchestra. Yes, please. Downtown also is home to a lot of sports. I've been very vocal about my love for baseball, but we have so many more, and I do love them all. U of L men's and women's basketball, volleyball, Louisville Bats, Louisville City FC and racing a little further afield, and as of this weekend, our new UFL team, the Louisville Kings, the first professional football team in our city in 100 years. Both the Bats and the Kings have season openers this Friday. There is no excuse not to be in downtown. Together, all of those teams brought 154 games to our downtown area. Music, arts, and sports, together 829 reasons, more than 2 every day of the year to be downtown. And because we cannot downplay the Bourbon, that's the added benefit you can experience while doing any of these things. When we talk about downtown being everyone's neighborhood, it's because of this diversity and density of activity. Every answer about what makes downtown successful and thriving is people. It's you and me. Everything that is done is to attract us doing the things. And there is something for everyone, which is critical for downtown's vibrancy and relevance. Someone who shares my passion for the diversity and density of people and activity is our mayor. I'm lucky that he loves downtown as much as I do. In 2025, he doubled down on our ability to help get older, architecturally significant office buildings converted into new residential uses by supporting or allocating dollars toward projects like the Fiscal Court and the Hubbock buildings. Just last month, we had 2 new hotel announcements, including new life for the Humana Tower, an internationally renowned building and the architectural jewel that changed our skyline in the 1980s. And together, he and I are working on new legislation this session with the General Assembly for a new property tax rebate program for residential development, a new tax credit for larger office towers, as well as more dollars for downtown development. Cross your fingers. These older buildings are what make our downtown beautiful and unique. It's how you know where you are. As urban activist Jane Jacobs said, old ideas can sometimes use new buildings, but new ideas must use old buildings. Please help me welcome Mayor Greenberg to the stage.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and good afternoon, everyone. Friends, there is no great city in America or this world without a great downtown. Downtown is everyone's neighborhood, and it should be the safest, cleanest, greenest, most vibrant, energetic, and welcoming place in our entire city. And these 2 square miles, right in the heart of our city, create opportunities that expand all across the 40,000 square miles of our entire Commonwealth of Kentucky. Yet when I took office just a few years ago, many thought downtown's best days were in the past. Now, as an impartial observer who happens to be here every day, I'm happy to report today that downtown is back and downtown is growing once again. You can see it on every corner. You can feel it when you walk down the street, or should I say when you walk down our new and improved sidewalks, Jeff, as you'll hear from more about in a moment. New attractions are opening. You just heard about some of them from Rebecca. Longtime local businesses like Yum are moving back downtown. New businesses like Hotel Bourbon, Five Iron Golf, Woodhouse Spa, and just last week, Louisville's latest Barry's Bagel, all call downtown home. People are visiting from all over the world here in downtown Louisville every single day. We're adding more housing, bringing more residents, more energy, and more life back to the heart of our city day and night. From the big projects to the minor details like fixing the lights, fixing potholes, and picking up garbage, we're taking great care of downtown Louisville. And also, we have the downtown ambassadors to thank. I love, on a regular basis, running into the amazing downtown ambassadors that are doing tremendous work here in the heart of our city. But we are not content. We know that for downtown's next chapter, we need to be bold. We need to do more, and we need to do it faster. Where others might see challenges and reason to focus on something else, we see incredible potential. So we're creating new life that's taking shape all around us as we speak. Take the Humana Tower, an icon of our skyline, an architectural marvel in the center of our central business district. When it became vacant, many worried it was another sign of a decaying downtown. Yet ever since I got the first call about Humana's new plan, my team and I got to work with Humana. Now, it's set to become a world-class 1,000-room convention hotel that will bring more good jobs, more visitors, and more events to our city. Louisville Gardens is another iconic venue that once hosted the likes of Elvis, Elton John, and still one of my favorite concerts to this day, the Beastie Boys. Since it closed decades ago, it's been vacant. Now, Louisville Gardens will become a world-class production studio that will lead Louisville's and Kentucky's burgeoning film industry into the future. And the crumbling concrete of the Belvedere, which hasn't seen much improvement in over 50 years, is in dire need of repair and reimagination. Now, Louisville's most overlooked overlook is about to get a whole new look. And today, I'm excited to share a new Belvedere website with you all, LouisvilleBelvedere.com. On this website, you'll have opportunities to find ways to get involved, to follow its progress, and see updated plans, which I'm very excited to share with you in the near future. These projects are just some of what we're working on. Because when you walk around downtown on a beautiful day like today, you'll see in every block the groundwork that's being laid for downtown's next chapter. The underused parking lot next to Slugger Field that will become housing, restaurants, shops, and more. The renovation currently underway at the Louisville Main Free Public Library. The new world-class research building that U of L is building a block away from LouMed Commons, which is a brand new urban park that we just opened late last year. And vacant properties like Jefferson County Fiscal Court building that we're turning into housing, and so much more. It was music to my ears yesterday when I was walking into Metro Hall and heard jackhammers inside of the Fiscal Court building, knowing that work was underway to turn that long, mostly vacant building into new places for people to live. You see, friends, this collectively is transformative change. Change that only happened because we recognized our opportunity, believed in the importance of downtown, and made bold decisions to reimagine downtown for today and for future generations. To do all of this, it takes great partners, so many of you whom are in this room today. To Rebecca and your team at LDP, thank you all so much for what you do every day. To my colleagues on Metro Council, many of whom are here today, you heard, who work with me on our city budget and other initiatives that boost our downtown and every other neighborhood in our city. Thank you all very much. To Governor Beshear, thank you for your partnership in creating jobs and opportunity here in Louisville and being here for us in our times of greatest need. And to my partners in the General Assembly, Senate President Stivers, Senators Rocky Adams and Neal, House Speaker Osborne and Representative Nemus Stevenson, and so many others, thanks to all of you for your support of downtown Louisville. Many of us come from different backgrounds, and sure, there are times that we definitely disagree. But I've learned that despite our differences, urban or rural, Democrat, Independent, or Republican, we all love Louisville and our Commonwealth, and there is common ground to be found. That's why 2 years ago, the General Assembly invested a record $1 billion in Louisville, $100 million of which was dedicated just here in downtown Louisville, making many of the projects we're now talking about today possible. And friends, our friends in the General Assembly are hard at work right now working on the budget. So if you know a legislator, give them a call today and tell them you support downtown Louisville and our entire city when they're making budget decisions. You see, this type of collaboration is not happening in Washington. It's not happening across the rest of our country, but it's happening right here in Kentucky. And it's creating transformational change right here in Louisville. Now, as proud as I am of all of this progress that we're celebrating today, as excited as I am for the future of downtown and all of Louisville, I also know that this progress is not lifting everyone up. It's not reaching everyone. And I feel the responsibility to ensure that we all find ways to support and strengthen everyone in our great city, including our most vulnerable neighbors. So we're laser focused on this challenge as well. And that's why we created the Community Care Campus in partnership with Volunteers of America, which will soon fully open and provide more services for families experiencing homelessness, including case management and housing placement. And for those experiencing chronic homelessness in downtown Louisville and throughout the rest of our city, we know that providing shelter is not enough to meet the challenges they face and to help them stay on a positive path in life. So recently, I launched Home for Good, an initiative in partnership with the Coalition for the Homeless and others, which aims to provide permanent supportive housing for at least 250 more people experiencing homelessness by 2027. With Home for Good, we've already started creating spaces at the Community Care Campus and elsewhere across our city, where people in need have a safe, affordable place to live, and where they'll be supported by healthcare professionals, social workers, job training specialists, and other professionals who can help address their underlying needs and provide a path to stability in addition to their housing. To create this change that we're looking for, our plan requires resources, and it requires all of us on the same team working together. People like us gathered in this room today who can create positive change to help our neighbors. People like those of us in this room today who benefit from the progress we're creating here in downtown and who can help support others across the entire city who do not yet benefit from this progress. Today, I'm proud to announce our first major philanthropic gifts to support Home for Good and its goals to expand our permanent supportive housing efforts across the entire city. Mary Gwynn Wheeler and David Jones Jr. are donating $500,000 to this important cause. Mary Gwen and David were not able to be with us here today, but that doesn't mean they can't inspire us. In fact, they and this initiative already inspired one person who is with us here today. Former Councilman Bill Hollander has also already made a very significant investment in this initiative to Home for Good. Bill, thank you so much for your generosity. Where is Bill? I think he's over here. Thank you, Bill. So whether you're familiar with Home for Good or you're just learning about it for the first time today, please go to homeforgood.louisvilleky.gov to learn more about this important partnership. Think about how you can help, the positive impact you can make. We would love to have you on this growing team. We're all gathered here today because we're all invested in the state of our downtown and in the state of our entire city. You don't need to contribute like Mary Gwen and David and Bill to make a meaningful impact, although we would love to have your support. There are still many other ways to make a positive impact. Eat lunch or dinner downtown regularly. Go to one of those great shows that Rebecca was just talking about, to a museum or a bourbon experience. And when you do that, invite a friend who hasn't been to downtown in over 5 years to join you. You can enjoy a walk in Waterfront Park. Bring your kids or grandkids to the new Playport in Waterfront Park West. Go to a ball game, as you just heard. This Friday night, we have the Louisville Bats who are back. And Louisville's brand new professional football team, the Louisville Kings, kick off the entire UFL season right here at Lynn Family Stadium. Be sure to join us downtown for Thunder Over Louisville and so many other wonderful Kentucky Derby Festival events in just a few weeks. Now, so while we're hard at work building downtown's next chapter, all of this that you're hearing about today and so much more is happening in downtown Louisville right now, in Louisville, in downtown Louisville. Friends, Louisville, let's go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Downtown is where every city begins, be it a town square or a metropolitan city center. It's where we show the world who we are through our arts and cultural attractions, our architecture, our shared spaces. This is where we tell our story, where the past, present, and future converge, and the result is the pulse of our city. You can feel it when you visit other cities, and most likely you're staying in and or visiting attractions in those downtowns too. It's the same with our downtown. We need to pay attention to the story that we're telling, which is why our public spaces are so important. A lot of work that we are doing in conjunction with the city is to invest in the basics and bring new life to our public spaces. Creating attractive spaces that serve as a place to gather helps get people to come out to play and simply be together. And we are working on creating more of those. Last year, LDP unveiled not one, but 2 new city spots at 4th and Jefferson and 5th and Main, both spaces that were underutilized, but oversized enough to warrant doing something there, bringing new color and whimsy to those corners. We also launched the Downtown Tunes public piano program. And although Grammy Award-winning Teddy Abrams helped us ordain the new pianos, we saw people of every skill level and every walk of life enjoy these pianos and offer random moments of music. 4th Street got a glow up with all new plantings and fencing and tree wells between Muhammad Ali and Broadway. And for the first time, thanks to our funding partners, Louisville Metro, Louisville Tourism, and Geens Foundation, we will have new overhead string lighting above an open street. We also continue to grow our banner and flower pot programs that bring color to our pedestrian experience. These public spaces are the connective tissue that make downtown a cohesive and attractive area where people want to be. Walkable urban places account for 3% of land mass, but according to a national study by Cushman Wakefield and Places Platform, those walkable urban places account for 26% of real estate value, 37% of tax revenue, and 57% of GDP. That's a really big deal. According to a national CBRE study, the majority of foot traffic in any downtown is from visitors. We know this is true thanks to a very authentic visitor experience we worked hard to grow in our downtown. It's that B word I mentioned earlier, which also coincidentally rhymes with urban. And we also know that to attract people to downtown, we have to make it worth the visit. Our own residents should know what a dynamic, special place we have. In 2025, the number of visits to our downtown remains steady. This includes downtown workers, tourists, and residents. We know the unforeseen cancellation of Thunder hurt our numbers, both in hotel nights and visits in downtown, but even with that, we had a very strong year. We had 35 million visits to our downtown last year, from every state and territory in our country, and international visitors as well, from countries such as the UK, Mexico, and Germany, and as far away as Australia and Japan. We're able to see that our biggest activity generators are the KFC Yum Center, 4th Street Live, the Convention Center, and Louisville Slugger Museum and Bat Factory. The completed investment in our downtown went way up, with $355 million completed in 20 projects, big and small. That is up from $75 million in 2024. And still today, there is $3.2 billion, that is a high, across 75 projects either underway or waiting to get started. Wow, the risk, the time, the energy that business owners and developers are willing to put into these projects demonstrates tremendous confidence in our downtown, and I know you can feel it. The theme of this year's event is downtown's next chapter, but first, it's good to know where we came from. This chart takes us back to 1980. The blue columns represent dollars of investment. The yellow line is number of projects. We've been tracking investments in downtown since the early 60s, but here's where it starts to really take off. The Galleria was built in 1982. In 1993, the Capitol Holding Center was built, which you might remember as Providian, or Aegon, or Mercer, which is now just 400 West Market. And then once we hit the 2000s, we start to see a steady amount of growth. 4th Street Live, Downtown Marriott, Waterfront Park Place. 2009 and 2010 were big years with Liberty Green, U of L's Clinical and Translational Research Building, and the Yum Center. Thank you, state and federal money. In 2017, that's the Ohio River Bridges project. Thank you again, federal money. The Omni and newly expanded Downtown Convention Center opened in 2018. And finally, last year, 2025, was the 5th highest year of investment in our downtown, thanks to a lot of projects, including Hotel Bourbon, Playport, the Prestonian, Beecher Terrace, and JCTC Center for Science and Discovery. And here's my favorite way to look at what has changed in downtown. The history of investment made in downtown since 1990, shown here, 5 years at a time, which reveals foundational investments early on, paving the way for new projects, which opens up new iterations of thinking about the built environment and attractions and what people have said they want, usually following a strategy of what we have envisioned through a 10-year plan. We need to remember that our successes in downtown today build off earlier successes. So this year is a special year, and I want us to revisit a very important piece of our story. I want to take you back to 1996, the year that the Louisville Slugger Museum and Bat Factory opened on Main Street. 30 years ago, the Humana Building had just been open a few years, and there was a very eager community willing to make big moves to revitalize downtown, to make it more than what it was, which was basically a 9-to-5 destination. West Main Street had great bones, but some buildings had been neglected or in some cases deserted. This was the early days of our organization, created specifically to put an emphasis on downtown development, to increase vibrancy and economic growth, to create an authentic sense of place, and set the table for more development that would help our whole city. My predecessor in this role, Barry Alberts, was working with local architect Bill Wayland, who is in this room today, who had their eyes on this street full of our city's great architectural legacy. What could we do to make this a really special street? What would help the community see what we have right here and help build pride? It just so happened that Louisville Slugger's factory was open to looking for a new home. They started making bats in 1884 on 1st Street, and then in 1901, moved to Smoketown. And then in 1970, they moved to Jeffersonville, Indiana. The Louisville Slugger, you guys, we couldn't even find a picture of that place. So Barry got in touch with the owner of this beautiful old warehouse. She had a buyer, but it wasn't somebody who was interested in redevelopment. And Barry asked if he could get some time to match the buying price, and she said yes. This renovation, including the largest bat in the world, got national attention. President Bill Clinton was here for the opening. I'd say the rest is history, but stick with me, there's more to the story. While all this was happening, our organization worked with the city to create a new streetscape between 6th and 9th Streets with brick sidewalks, bump outs at the corners to calm traffic, street furniture and sidewalk markers to call out the original businesses that occupied these buildings, and walking sticks that encircled new street trees telling the story of this historic stretch. The city also offered facade loans to all the property owners on this stretch to freshen up their building facades to show off what only a few people knew, that this special street is home to the second largest collection of cast iron facades in the country, second only to Soho in New York City. So, I like that. So, large-scale developments and placemaking on the street are equally important. We had something special going on here. Hence, the new Cultural Arts District was born, now probably better known as Museum Row or Historic West Main Street. Building owners took advantage of the facade loan. Businesses and attractions started looking at West Main Street as a new, exciting location. The Cultural Arts District got all sorts of national attention and won urban design awards, and the city started to take pride in its downtown. Local historian and archivist Tom Owens said it best. Historic West Main Street is a strolling museum of the city's history. And he's with us today, too. So let's give it up for Tom and Bill. And happy 30th anniversary to Slugger Museum. Thank you for the start of downtown's modern revitalization. Now let's fast forward 15 years to 2011. After new offices located here, new attraction hotels were opened, such as 21C and Fraser History Museum, and downtown life did grow past 9 to 5. Then this other new phenomenon started to bubble up, one that had not been a glimmer in anyone's eye back in 1996. It's that B word again. And here we are, another 15 years later, and our Main Street has taken on a whole new life and added a new chapter in our history, with 24 distilleries and tasting rooms where there had been 0 in 2011 that attract hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. As a matter of fact, another shout out, happy 10th anniversary to Angel's Envy. They were the 3rd distillery behind Evan Williams and Kentucky Peerless to open in the burgeoning Bourbon District. So what we might take for granted now had to start with intention and creativity. And today, especially today, we must continue planting seeds for whatever the next chapter will be for our future. In the meantime, some amazing things are happening. In 2025, we saw new projects open, such as Mashup Food Hall, Woodhouse Spa, and the new Haymarket. And new projects are on the way, such as the Colt Club, Sons of the American Revolution's new museum, and New Loop Crossing, which will bring 500 new apartments to that district. And who could miss, and I'm going to mention it for the 3rd time, the back-to-back hotel announcements a month ago of the conversions of both the Brown & Williamson and Humana Towers into some much-needed hotels. 8 new companies came to downtown, several of which were new to the city and state, which means new tax revenue, and some came from suburban locations who wanted to walk the talk. Yum also had FOMO, and they announced their relocation to downtown, which will bring an influx of 550 new employees to the PNC Tower and that many more feet on the street. We saw 40 new street-level retailers open in downtown. That's twice as many that has closed, such as Goodwood Brewing and Five Iron. And another 8 companies relocated within downtown, which is really important to point out. They know the value of being in downtown, not only for doing business, but for the benefit of their employees as well. And they recommitted to it with new leases, such as Block by Block, the Housing Authority, and LMPD. Housing is still at the top of our priority list. During just 1 week in October, 4 residential developments cut a ribbon, and we broke ground on another, all in or around downtown for people of all income levels, a critical point to be made. We have a massive need for more residential units across our entire city, and with the demand for housing in downtown, this is the fastest way to make downtown a residential neighborhood. We also had 4 new green spaces open, providing new spaces for reflection, recreation, or just good old hanging out, and a 5th one will be opening soon at JCTC. This is a big deal as we try to make downtown a more residential neighborhood and as we try to combat the amount of asphalt in our downtown. Speaking of asphalt, here is a map of downtown highlighting all of our surface parking lots. It's gross. A quick calculation of assessments of parking lots based on the value of the land, which is how PVA assesses property, compared to the use of the land, typically what a property owner will appeal for, has translated to a loss to the city of approximately $10 million per year in property taxes, and also a loss of a lot more pedestrian activity, perception of safety, maybe some more green and beauty. And apologies to any surface parking lot owners who are out there, you can come at me later. We were lucky that in the 1960s and 70s, when a lot of cities were tearing down buildings, we were too broke to tear down too many of them. But unfortunately, what we did manage to remove from our built environment for the most part has not been redeveloped. Here's another really gross map. This shows the building mass in 1905 on the left compared to what we have today on the right. Sure, we have bigger, more modern buildings, but we have so much empty space. According to a recent Courier Journal article, about a fourth of a square mile of Louisville's central business district is devoted to off-street parking. So let's flip the script. It's also so much opportunity. With potential new financial tools and incentives and changes in law hopefully on the very near horizon, such as the property tax rebate and a new downtown investment fund, developers and property owners will hopefully find new ways and resources to redevelop these eyesores, create new uses that will increase pedestrian activity and property values, and make for enjoyable and safer environment. To create a vibrant, fun downtown, there is a foundational truth that we rely on, and that is that our downtown is safe. And I'm super glad to say yet again that our downtown is safe. I'm hearing more and more people acknowledge it. So perceptions are changing and people are actually seeing it. Thanks to Chief Humphrey and his command staff, as well as the Downtown Area Patrol and the broader 1st Division, we are well taken care of here. Our partnerships have strengthened over the last couple of years, and we have new connections that have allowed for expanded presence, programs, and access. And we know you love this idea. Don't worry, we're still working on creating an entertainment district where you can carry your beverage of choice from restaurant to bar, helping you explore even more of downtown. But please be patient as we are working to secure funding for the required enforcement personnel. And also feel free to lobby any of your local legislators in this room. In addition to LMPD, Louisville Downtown Partnership has benefited from a strong team of important partners. Louisville Tourism, so we can help inspire and develop authentic experiences where conventioneers and tourists are. Homeless service and shelter providers, and a new Office of Behavioral Health in the Mayor's office, as well as the new Home for Good initiative that the Mayor shared, of which I'm proud to be part. Because we want everyone who needs help to get the services and housing they need. Waterfront Park, a downtown gym with several perfect settings for events, as well as One Louisville, LUMED, Public Works, and the new Department of Transportation and the Cabinet for Economic Development. And last but certainly not least, our ambassadors in orange, who are our front door to downtown. And with your help, hopefully, whose numbers we want to keep growing. Each of you has our most recent economic impact report, hot off the presses, and I'm happy to report that the state of downtown is strong. Tourism, property values, tax revenue, investment, occupancy rates, all moving in the right direction. And here is a depiction of value per acre. This is downtown Indianapolis, but this is a universal truth, that this exponentially larger amount of land value than any other neighborhood is what makes a downtown so important. And it also means much higher tax revenue. Our downtown is the 3rd largest tax revenue producing area in the state, behind the cities of Lexington and Louisville. And while I'd love to be able to spend all of the money that is generated from downtown in downtown, I'm happy to report that nearly all of it goes to services metro-wide. Which is why I like to say, and I'm sure you've heard me say it before, that to have a strong city, you must have a strong downtown. Every 10 years, we develop a downtown strategy, a roadmap of what this community wants downtown to look and feel like over the next decade. We need to be continually creating and developing projects that we know will be transformative, seeding that next chapter to help tell our story and keep creating new ones. We are 2 years into this latest strategy. You'll find our latest updates on the table, which include new pedestrian-friendly initiatives like conversion of one-way streets to two-way, which you'll be hearing more about, and with more art and more color and special lighting. New residential and hotel projects completed and more on the way, including much-needed permanent supportive housing units and housing at all price points. And success in Frankfurt the last couple years, making fixes to statute and dedicating funds to downtown. So let's take a look at how we've moved our downtown strategy forward this past year.
Downtown Louisville is entering its next chapter, one shaped by intention, collaboration, and a clear vision for the future. This is a downtown defined by balance, a place to live, work, visit, and belong. Louisville's downtown strategy is coming to life through new attractions and hotels, new housing opportunities, and a renewed focus on the public realm to connect it all. At the center of this work is a simple idea. When downtown thrives, the entire city benefits.
It is such a special place because it's the one neighborhood in our entire city. It's everyone's neighborhood. One of the great things about the positive momentum in downtown Louisville right now, people want to be where the action is. And once people start seeing these projects come to life and construction happening, more people will look at opportunities in downtown Louisville.
It's the economic hub of the state of Kentucky. So having a strong, vibrant, active downtown Louisville benefits the region in a big way.
Our comprehensive strategy is built around 3 connected pillars: activating downtown, strengthening it as a residential neighborhood, and enhancing the public realm to create a better experience for everyone. Activation signifies energy, momentum, and giving people more reasons to be downtown during the workday, after hours, and on weekends.
In the downtown area, you can feel the atmosphere, the electricity of a sporting event when you're walking to the ballpark or walking to an arena that you just don't get out in the suburbs.
Whether it's a leisure visitor, it's a meeting, convention, and visitors, it is about an experience that they're having in your city. We need to do everything we can to improve our neighborhood downtown so the experience continues to resonate with folks and they want to come back and they want to tell others why it's important to come to Louisville.
Other new attractions continue to open downtown, including Five Iron Golf and the soon-to-open Sons of the American Revolution Education Center and Museum. Along the river, Playport opened as part of Waterfront Park's Phase 4 expansion, creating new opportunities for families and visitors to experience downtown.
You've got the restoration and transformation of the Humana Tower for its next chapter. Diamond Baseball Holdings with building a whole new neighborhood right next to Louisville Slugger Field. And the transformation of the Belvedere from 50-year-old crumbling concrete into a world-class destination.
Activation isn't just about major attractions, it's also powered by programming and events that create consistent activity downtown.
For us to drive that activity down here to Main Street, whether it's during the day or whether it's during the evening, is really important for just the whole area. We're a really vibrant, active city that has a lot going on.
From Food Truck Wednesdays and Steins on Main to downtown drive-ins and Pickleball Street Fest, these events bring energy to streets and public spaces. As a result, tourism numbers are rising, more people are back in the office, foot traffic is increasing, and downtown is a place people seek out and not just pass through. The strategy's second pillar focuses on downtown as a residential neighborhood. With building conversion incentives at the local and state levels, Louisville is expanding residential and hotel opportunities in and around downtown, which strengthens our city center as a place to visit and call home.
It's critical that folks of all income levels are able to live in everyone's neighborhood, which is downtown Louisville. Having folks close to the hospitals, close to the central business district, close to restaurants, it helps the businesses because they have workers nearby, and it helps families because they have access to all kinds of communities.
776 residential units were completed in 2025, with an additional 2,500 units currently underway. We want downtown housing developed at every price point, helping to ensure that growth is inclusive and that the most fragile to the most stable can all call downtown home. As more people live downtown, safety and quality of life become even more important. Investments in public safety, including new downtown police headquarters, are increasing visibility and presence, which gives greater confidence to residents, workers, and visitors.
It is absolutely critical
that we have a strong residential neighborhood at the heart of our city, because that's really what drives activity. It's what creates a sense of place. It's what creates safety by having people on the street.
It's a very safe downtown, easy to navigate. Visitors who come feel very welcome. The hospitality here is really good, and people reflect that.
Our role is safety. We've invested in our DAP unit. That's our Downtown Area Patrol. We've provided new vehicles for them. We've purchased side-by-sides and ATVs that they ride on that gives them more accessibility to the public.
The third pillar of the strategy is enhancing the public realm, creating walkable streets, welcoming public spaces, and strong connections throughout downtown. Placemaking initiatives like City Spots, Downtown Tunes, Traeger Microforest, rotating public art, or new murals are transforming underutilized spaces into places that invite people to gather and linger. At the same time, major infrastructure investments are reshaping how people move through downtown. Projects like Main Remade and the East Market Streetscape are already underway or complete.
We have several one-way to two-way conversions that will be happening. We have the 9th Street corridor happening along with Broadway all the way, as well as River Road. We want people to travel throughout the city, whether they're residents or visitors, safely and efficiently.
Last year, we opened Lumet Commons. That was our 1-acre park that used to be a correctional facility. It is now a beautiful green space with a pavilion, and we're really proud of that. But there are other projects that we're working on, like the Chestnut Street Corridor project. That will be about a year and a half project where we're revitalizing 8 blocks of that street. Streetscape improvements along South 4th Street and special lighting enhancements are changing the look and feel of downtown, making it more inviting during both day and night.
We hear that from our customers that come from Chicago, DC, and Atlanta. They say, wow, this city's very walkable, it's very connected. And those things are very important.
When we think about what it means to not only activate in this space, but to beautify this space, to bring people in together, I think there is huge power in choosing to be a stakeholder, in choosing to invest in downtown Louisville, in choosing to invest in our people, and create a space where everyone can come, feel comfortable, feel like they belong, and feel like it's theirs.
Downtown is a neighborhood defined by the people, for the people who are there every day.
We are always looking for the next best way to make sure that people are safe and feel safe. And downtown is key to that because it is so visible. This is a place for everyone, something where no matter what walk of life you come from, what part of town you come from, you can go downtown and have a good time.
Together, these investments prioritize pedestrians, support businesses, and create a downtown that is easier to navigate and more enjoyable to experience.
When you look back on these years, in 10, 20, 30 years from now, you will see that the investments we're making now have created a new downtown to live, to work, to host an event, to sip bourbon, to enjoy wonderful things that only happen in downtown Louisville. That's what this moment is all about.
Today's new paradigm: capital follows people, people follow place. Place needs investment. Our strategy is a holistic one, where residential vitality, cultural energy, business growth, and public infrastructure work in concert. Downtown Louisville's long-term future is bright, based on a 30-year foundation of major improvements and success. Our next chapter is already being written, block by block, project by project, guiding our way to an ever-thriving downtown.
Let's hear more of that. That was great energy. Come on, let's bring it up. Good afternoon. I'm Lance Gilbert, and I have the privilege of being chairman of the Downtown Development Corporation, or LDP. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and your support of downtown and for sharing your time with us today. I hope you feel the infectious excitement about downtown, not just from the presentations that you heard or the speeches that you heard, but also experiencing it live yourselves every day. And you can expect more exciting news about downtown, about future investments to come in the near future. First, I would be negligent if I did not express to you that my role as chairman could not be successful without the support of the remarkable board members, as it may be noted in your program. If not, it's on our website. So board members, if you're here, please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. And most importantly, LDP's success centers on the leadership of our Executive Director, Rebecca Fleischhaker, and her amazing staff for all the work towards a vibrant downtown. Please stand so everyone can thank you and your staff for the dedication that you do to support. Now, I know all 500 plus of you spent a lot of money to hear me speak today. However, I will have to pass and move on to our esteemed keynote speaker. I just can't imagine how disappointed you must feel now that I'm not speaking, but however, you'll be hearing some great words from Mr. Jeff Speck. As a preamble to his introduction, just a bit for you about urban planning background for you before I introduce him. I would like you to keep in mind it is important to recognize that public infrastructure is woven into our everyday fabric, urban fabric, to ensure people from all walks of life can congregate in various forms together as a community, which is a big deal. Playful spaces enliven our urban environment, which keeps us active, strengthens our sense of belonging, and improves our mental and social well-being. How you get around your downtown and the experience you have doing it has everything to do with how you feel about your downtown. And with that basic setup, I'd like to provide you with the impressive background of our speaker, Mr. Jeff Speck. Jeff is no stranger to Louisville, having been here last year to do a walkability study in Nulu and downtown. We're seeing some of the fruits of his labors on Main and Market Streets now. Jeff Speck is a city planner and urban designer who advocates internationally for more walkable cities. Since 2007, he has led Speck and Associates, an award-winning privileged private design consultancy serving public officials and the real estate industry. Prior to that, Mr. Speck served as Director of Design at the National Endowment for the Arts from 2003 through 2007, where he presided over the Mayor's Institute on City and Design and created the Governor's Institute on Community Design. Mr. Speck is the co-author of 2 books, Suburban Nation, which is the Wall Street Journal calls the Urbanist's Bible, and Walkable City, which was the best-selling city planning book of the past decade. And ladies and gentlemen, his book is outside in the lobby. Feel free to purchase one on your way out. So please join me and put your hands together with introducing Mr. Jeff Speck.
Safer, stronger, more engaging, energetic, and exciting, including right here in downtown. And recently, we started working with my new friend, Jeff Speck. Jeff is the leading urban planner on walkable cities. In fact, he's written a bestseller called Walkable City. And he's been working with us here in Louisville for nearly a year now to put together plans to make downtown more walkable, safer, more engaging, and inviting. Jeff, in your study of what we have and where we can head, where are you most excited about for Louisville?
Well, you know, I'm a city planner who's focused on making places vital, making them thrive. To do that, they need to be walkable. Your downtown is really the part of the city that belongs to everybody, and everyone has a stake in the downtown, and I would say the city's reputation is based in major part on the downtown. So we look at the downtown and we say, how can we make it more walkable? Walking needs to be useful, safe, comfortable, and interesting. And right now in downtown, walking is pretty darn useful, it's pretty comfortable, and it's pretty interesting, but it is not safe.
So when you see a 5 or 6 lane one-way street like right behind us on Jefferson, what do you think, and what is your suggestion on how we improve it?
More than 100 American cities have reverted their one-way pair downtown networks back to two-way traffic. They've restored two-way traffic to their downtowns. When you do that, safety goes up tremendously and also comfort goes up tremendously. So the first thing we've looked at is what your city's been working on for some time before we arrived, which was how do we bring back two-way traffic comprehensively to the downtown.
And you've given us some great suggestions about how we can do this pretty quickly and pretty cost-effectively. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we built a team with Stantec, which is a multi-purpose firm that does engineering. This is one of a dozen similar projects that we've worked on over the years. We have a plan that can be implemented pretty completely in 5 years or less, that essentially restripes, does not rebuild because that's too expensive. It restripes almost every downtown street to a two-way standard. It also removes extra lanes on streets that have more lanes than the traffic demands. It narrows lanes that are too wide, because wide lanes cause speeding that serves no other purpose except to make cars dangerous. And we also, in doing that, find opportunity for a more robust bicycle network, which can add to the ways that people get around the downtown and perhaps a little less driving.
That was my talk. Excuse me. That was my talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Wow, well, it's great to be addressing such a big room with so many people in it. Thank you to the Louisville Downtown Partnership, beautifully led and effectively led by Rebecca. And you're so lucky to have a leader like Mayor Greenberg, who, as the Beastie Boys would put it, is as cool as a cucumber in a hot tub sauce. I have a lot to tell you today. I have about half an hour. I have 246 slides, I believe, which is kind of normal for me. I can do it. I'm going to talk really fast. And this isn't just the last year or 2 years that I've been coming to Louisville. This is my arrival yesterday. I take pictures every time I show up, at least recently. But I've been coming here a lot. This is my credential slide, which is meant to impress you, but it's not as impressive as this, which is I've been a Kentucky Colonel for 10 years now. So, all right. and Jennifer Commissar Kern gave me a derby pin, so that's my other credential. I understand there's a new one this year. I'm happy if you have an extra, just throw it my way. This was back in May that I was brought here. I've probably been here 8 times over the last 20 years. Probably Louisville is the place where I spend most time, aside from my own home city of Boston. But this effort that I'm going to talk to you about today began in May of 2024 when the Urban Design Studio, led by Patrick Puma, brought me in. Let's hear it for Patrick. I know he's here today. My kind of guy riding a bicycle with a beer, nothing better, except maybe a bourbon. And thank you, Rebecca, for, I didn't realize that urban rhyme, I didn't think about the fact that urban rhymed with bourbon, but I'll have to use that moving forward. By the way, you'll know that you've reached, I want to thank everyone who's here today for supporting this organization. You'll know that you've reached your fundraising goals when we have an open bar at this event. So I gave a talk in 2024. Who was at that talk? Who's going to be hearing things again for a second time? Okay, not very many of you, that's good. And that actually brought me back because that talk and a conversation with Mayor Greenberg and others led to the decision to fund a walkability study, which is essentially a new street striping plan for the downtown and for Nulu. So that led to this lecture and this plan. And this plan was completed in November, and it is ready to go. We spent a lot of time. We spent more than a week here overall walking all of the streets in downtown and Nulu, getting to know them much better than we already did, getting to know their citizens, and enjoying all the pleasures that Louisville has to offer, including, of course, the hot brown. And you'll be pleased to know we did fund our own meals when we enjoyed it. So the plan is what I want to talk to you about today, and my talk today is called Towards a More Vibrant Downtown Louisville. And another way to say it would be going both ways in Louisville. Yeah, that's a joke. So in my book, Walkable City, I talk about the importance of places being walkable. I don't think you need me to tell you that walkable places are places where people want to be. But I define it in my general theory of walkability. I try to answer the question, how do you get people to walk. And I've talked about this before in Louisville, but never to a crowd even half this size. So I'm just excited to share it with more of you. Essentially, if people are going to make the choice to walk, particularly in America, where almost everyone has a car, and the car is there in the driveway between them and everything else, the walk has to be as good as the drive. And to do that, it has to do 4 things simultaneously. It has to be useful, it has to be safe, it has to be comfortable, and it has to be interesting. And we're going to go through each of these categories, but I should say that here, the safe walk, and with respect to the Police Chief Humphreys, I think he'd be the first to tell you, the real danger downtown is not crime, it's cars. And so that's what we look at as planners, and that's what we really need to stress in my talk today, so I'm saving it for the end. Our effort here, as I suggested, was a street safety design. But what's worth noting is that you're doing these 3 other things all pretty darn well. And Louisville is a city that I've been dying to get to as a planner, get a job in as a planner for at least 2 decades, because the impression that my colleagues and I have had of Louisville all this time is that it's a city that's got everything going on except for the safety of its streets. And if you could fix that, you'd have the whole package. You'd have a truly walkable downtown. So I'm going to take you quickly through each of these categories, but we're going to land on safety and spend most of our time there. The useful walk is a story of planning and the history of the planning profession, and the fact that back in the 19th century, people were choking on the soot from the dark satanic mills, and the planners said, hey, let's move the housing away from the factories. And they did that, and when they did that, lifespans increased immediately and dramatically, and we like to say that the planners were hailed as heroes, and they've been trying to repeat that experience ever since. So you have the onset of Euclidean zoning, large lot single-use zoning, which split the landscape into large areas of single use. Of course, this is completely unwalkable, because nothing different is anywhere near where you are. The most walkable places don't have blobs, they have confetti, right? They have finely mixed grain of uses. I was an art history major. They say that wasn't the most lucrative choice, but I can say you don't want a Rothko in your zoning, you want a Syrah. Syrah was the pointillist, right? That's the goal. And this gets us to the fundamental new urbanist conversation. I've been a new urbanist since we founded the Congress back in 1993. The fundamental new urbanist conversation is basically there's only 2 tested ways to make community that we've really tested by the thousands. One is the traditional neighborhood, defined as being compact, diverse, and walkable, and the other is sprawl, clearly not compact, not diverse. And look at this aerial. You can see very few of the streets actually go anywhere. They're loops and cul-de-sacs. So the few streets that do carry traffic become noxious, and you're actually 300% more likely to be killed in this environment than you are in a traditional neighborhood as a pedestrian. So it's fun to break sprawl down into its constituent parts, the places where you only live, where you only work, where you only shop, the part we forgot to count when we separated everything from everything else. This is not Photoshop, this is LA. But the idea that if everything is separated and reconnected only with automotive infrastructure, then your highway system grows and grows. And I always tell people, for many, this is the American dream. The house with nothing but other houses around it. But if that's your dream, then this is going to be your nightmare, because you're going to be stuck in traffic moving from single use to single use. And the amount that we invest in our horizontal infrastructure so that you never have to wait more than 1 cycle at a light because it's so painful to be in this environment. This is also not Photoshop. And then it's stressful on families. The longer your commute, the more likely you are to be divorced. That's a fact. And then the epidemiologists who study this gave me this slide and said the reason why we have the first generation of Americans who are expected to live shorter lives than their parents is because it seems normal to drive, to park, to take the escalator to the gym, to get on the treadmill, to walk. Right? We've engineered out of existence the useful walk. So driving is really stressful and unpleasant. Being a pedestrian in these environments, these single-use downtowns can be even worse. So these are the 2 models. And when we talk about creating new communities, which we're doing all the time, we're working right now on a new downtown for Prospect nearby, we say it's the same stuff. We acknowledge it's places to live, work, shop, recreate, worship. But how big is it? How far apart is it? And do you have a nice network of small blocks and small streets connecting it all together. And of course, our downtowns in America, our pre-war downtowns, are that model. And the more you can make it that model, the more useful you can make it by mixing everything together, the more walkable it will be. And as mentioned, the key thing that's lacking or underrepresented in your downtowns is housing. And you're working on that, and you're wise to continue investing in that. So that's the first category, the useful walk. The next category is the comfortable walk, and that has to do with something a little sophisticated that we call a spatial definition. As planners, we try to make outdoor living rooms. It's great to climb a mountain and get a broad view, but actually what all animals seek, according to evolutionary biologists, all animals are seeking both prospect and refuge. And if you don't feel that your flanks are covered from attack, you actually don't feel comfortable in a place. So a plaza is only as good as its walls. A street is only as good as its buildings. What's the best ratio of height to width? Well, 3 to 1 is great. 1 to 1 is the Renaissance ideal. Beyond 1 to 6, you don't really feel enclosed anymore. And so, Salzburg, no one's doing shadow studies in Salzburg. It's delightful at 6 to 1. The opposite of Salzburg, of course, is Houston. This is an old picture of Houston. But it reminds us that it's the surface parking lot, as was mentioned, that's the principal villain in this attempt to have buildings that hug the street and create outdoor living rooms. You can put tables in it if you want. It's not going to change your experience. This is Europe. Look at that outdoor living room in the middle of Madrid. Or, Boston, where I'm from. The narrower the space, or the better the height to width ratio often, the more delightful the street is. I find your alleys, spend some time, but of course you've got great urban and suburban examples of lovely spatial definition throughout your city. Whiskey Alley is a favorite of mine, but just your typical street is close to that 1-to-1 ratio in the heart of your downtown, which makes for a really walkable, comfortable place. Next is the interesting walk, which has to do with signs of humanity. 1-to-1, as I noted, was the Renaissance ideal. This is a 1-to-1. This is downtown Grand Rapids, which is a great downtown, but no one wants to walk on this street that connects the two best hotels because, when one side of the street is a parking deck and the other side is a conference facility, apparently designed in admiration for the parking deck. It's just boring, right? It's repetitive, horizontal, no action. Mayor Riley of Charleston, a friend of mine, mayor for 40 years, taught us that it only takes 20 feet of building to hide 200 feet of parking. And so this is one of my favorites, the Chia Pet Garage, I call it, in South Beach, where I used to live. Every city, yours included, have parking lots that were built at the wrong time, that are up against the sidewalk, or maybe there's a building between the parking lot and the sidewalk and it looks like a parking lot. But the idea of putting crust of habitable space on your parking structures is something that's caught on here. But of course, your typical street, this isn't typical, but your typical street provides a lot of variety. West Main provides the most variety, the most beauty. I didn't know that stat, second to Soho in terms of, you know that your Victorian district south of downtown is the biggest in the country. It's the biggest, best collection of Victorian homes in the US, and we love visiting it when we're here. And then, of course, the other thing that's boring is blank walls, and you've done a great job, and you continue to do a great job here. A lot of cities have murals. Yours are actually good. So thank you for doing that. So that's it, but now let's move on to the main category and the main reason why I'm here, which is the fact that we're experiencing a traffic violence epidemic in the US. You are 78% more likely to be killed by a car now than 15 years ago. And we don't have time to get into the reason, but let's just say that America is the most dangerous of the developed nations in terms of driving deaths. And then if you look at different cities, it's remarkable how different they are from each other, which is a factor of how much driving people are doing and how fast they're driving. So New York, 2.6 people killed per 100,000 per year. San Francisco, 3.0. Dallas, 13.9. Orlando, 14.8. That's bad, but you're even worse. So you've got some work to do. And it's a function, I'm sure probably more of the crashes are out of downtown, but your downtown streets are quite high speed, as we'll be talking about, and they invite the kind of driving that is going to cause crashes and deaths. I found this car walking around Nulu, not sure if it crashed there or somewhere else, and was just dumped on the street. So what can we do about this? And the principal thing we can do is control the speed of the vehicles, essentially create an environment in which cars will drive the speed limit. A car, as you can see, a car going 40 is 5 times as likely to kill you as a car going 20. So what can we do to get cars to simply drive the speed that we've marked? And by the way, that's if it hits you, but there's a much more greater likelihood of a car hitting you at those higher speeds because the braking distances are much longer when you're going faster, and your cone of vision narrows as you're going faster. So speed is so important, and we have this weird condition in America, unlike so much of the rest of the world, where the engineers were taught, maybe they still are, but they certainly were, taught to design streets for speeds higher than the posted speed limit. The idea was that elbow room, that forgiveness made a street safer. We've now learned that all forgiveness causes is speeding. And so you want streets that essentially just tell people to go the speed that it's marked. When we don't do that, we have to take other measures, like here in Salt Lake City, part of my wife and one of my sons holding up flags to cross the street. I used to think this was pretty funny until I discovered Granville Island in Vancouver, where they have a better program. It's called the Grab a Brick program. Grab a brick, wave it around, make sure you make eye contact, put it back when you cross the street. But, you know, these are Canadians, so they're really nice. It's actually, the bricks are foam. They're foam bricks. Anyway, you know, you've got this speedy streetscapes throughout your downtown. And so the question is, how do we make downtown Louisville safe? And the answer is, and this is my presentation from, this part comes from my presentation of the plan that we've given you. But there's essentially 4 steps. Completing your two-way reversion, which, by the way, was started well before we got here, and which we can't take credit for. The conversation we had when I arrived a couple of years ago was, you've got this work that you're doing, but you don't have a comprehensive plan that organizes it all, that phases it, that's going to make it happen quickly. So that was our job, to do that. The second step I'll take you through is to remove lanes that are not demanded by traffic volume. You can remove them and not cause congestion. Third, what do we do with that extra asphalt? Well, we add parking lanes and we add bike lanes. And fourth, let's remove signals, which I'll explain why. Let's remove signals and replace them with always stop signs, which, by the way, is something you've also already started to do. So we're going to go through these one by one. Completing the two-way reversion. This is a story that I've been telling around the country and the world, really, for about 20 years. We've learned that one-way streets, multi-lane, not one lane, multi-lane one-way streets are extraordinarily dangerous because of the opportunity to jockey, because of the fact it feels like a highway. Just the travel behaviors on these roads are faster. They're also bad for business, and we learned that from this article that came out in 2009 by Alan Ehrenholt in Governing Magazine, where he told the story of Vancouver, Washington. Now, Vancouver had a multi-lane one-way main street. I got to get a better picture of this street. But they had a multi-lane one-way main street that they tried everything to make it thrive. It was doing badly. You know, they tried the bricks, the berms, the banners, the bandstands, the bollards, and the balloons, and nothing brought this street back until they convinced the DOT to make it two-way. And when they did, the merchants said that visits to their stores doubled. So, well, that's interesting. There's a study here from Louisville that I've been showing all around, Louisville, I've got to pronounce it right, that I've been showing all around the world for a decade. You guys were among the first and the most comprehensive one-way conversion in the country. I mean, look at this. It's basically every street. You probably know that not too long ago, Brook and First were reverted to two-way travel, while Second and Third, south of downtown, right, were kept as one-way. The two-ways, car crashes went down 48% and crime went down 23%. On the one-ways, crashes went up and crime went up. Remarkably, traffic safety improved on Brook and First, even though traffic volume increased on those streets, 13 and 40% respectively. So higher volume, fewer crashes. Now, you would think that there'd be 100 studies like this, but it's amazing how the studies have not been done. There's only a few others that you can find. This one happens to come from Israel. In Jerusalem, they studied hundreds of one-way and two-way streets and found that accident rates were clearly higher on one-way streets for all street classes and accident types, mid-block and at intersections. And then this study is from Canada, where they found in Ontario the injury rate was 2.5 times higher on one-way streets than on two-way streets. And by the way, 3 times higher for children from the poorest neighborhoods. So we've been doing this work for some time. It's convenient and instructive that one of our projects from not too long ago was New Albany, which you may remember. New Albany had an entirely pretty much entirely one-way downtown. And we did this plan for them a number of years ago, and they sat on it for about 3 years because they were worried, particularly the police chief, the fire chief. You know, they were losing that extra lane to stage a vehicle. Is this going to be bad? But after 3 years, they did the whole thing in one summer, thanks to, you know, community input as well as great leadership. And then we came back not long afterwards, and this is the police chief, Todd Bailey, who said that in his 28 years as a police officer, he's never seen a better scenario for public safety. Speeds have been reduced, crashes are down, and response times to call for service are better than they've ever been. So that's a very good example right nearby. This is a list from one of my books for sale outside, Walkable City Rules, where there are now about 100 cities that have started to or completed the reversion of their one-way networks. This is your current direction of flow in the downtown. You can see all the red streets are one-way streets. This is what our plan accomplishes over the next 5 years, and it will truly be remarkable. And by the way, when we say reversion, we do not mean this, where you just flip one lane, because there's another issue, which is how many lanes are in the street, which gets to our second category, removing extra lanes. Now, this is Oklahoma City. I was called to Oklahoma City about 20 years ago because Prevention Magazine named them the worst city for pedestrians in the entire country. And the mayor said, what do we do? And I said, let's do a walkability study. And he said, what's that? And I said, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together. And we looked at the car counts in the downtown. And we saw that we know that a two-way, two-lane street with no left turn lanes can handle 10,000 cars a day. No one will argue this. And so we looked at the downtown car counts. I don't know if you can see it from your seat, but 3,000, 5,000, 6,800. And these were all 4 to 6 lane streets in the downtown, vastly oversized. So we said we have a mismatch between supply and demand of lanes and 4 lanes, and let's fix that. So as Devon Energy decided to build the tower you see at the bottom of this slide against the park, generating $200 million in tax increment for the downtown, they decided to rebuild all 40 blocks, with a few exceptions, of their downtown core. Actually rebuild. My job was the curb-to-curb design. We were able to remove 1/3 of the travel lanes. We doubled the amount of on-street parking. We created a bike network where there was no bike network. So a typical street went from this to this, or from this to this, or from this to this. And you know, I say this is what you do when you have money, right? But not everyone has that kind of money. So I say, don't rebuild, restripe. No, we don't need any more of this. Although it turned out really well on market, but this is not what our plan proposes. Our plan is all about paint. And so you look at your counts downtown, and can you see this map? 4,200, 5,300, 800. And this shows you that everything in orange, and the wider the more, there's been a serious decrease in the amount of traffic in your downtown streets. So they are now oversized. Anything that's blue is more than 10,000 cars per day, so it might need a 3rd lane. But everything that's not blue, actually, the traffic can easily be handled by 2 lanes of traffic. And then look at the lane counts: 3, 4, 5, 6. So your streets are vastly oversized. We know this number. And so these are all the streets which, with fewer lanes in them, will not be congested. And we don't recommend narrowing streets that will be congested. We only narrow streets that have extra lanes in them. So each of these streets, Market can lose a lane, 5th Street can lose a lane, Main Street can lose a lane, and that's the plan. So that's the second category. The third category, what do we do with the extra asphalt? We add parking and bike lanes. It's really important. Parallel parking, often misunderstood. It's an essential barrier of steel that protects the curb from moving vehicles. I used to think, okay, it's good to have, but how important is it? This is Fort Lauderdale, where we did a walkability study, and you can see you're allowed to park on the left side of the street during happy hour and not on the right side of the street. Our study fixed this. But this was happy hour on the left side of the street, and this was happy hour on the right side of the street. No one wants to sit and dine or stand or walk on a sidewalk that doesn't have some sort of protection against the curb. So that's one thing that we increase. And you can see here, what you're seeing is in red, and there's almost none of it, are places where parking is going away. But in black is where parking is being added. So all those black lines are more parking that will be against the curb in your downtown, which the businesses will benefit from tremendously. And then the other thing we add is bike facilities, which I want to stress, you guys have already done a great job in adding bike lanes in other places and in downtown, and we just need to do more of it. This is the way to get people to bike, is to protect the bike lanes, to pull the parking off the curb, like you see on Market Street. So you have that barrier of steel between the driving vehicles and the bike lanes. This is Prospect Park West in Brooklyn. When they removed a lane from the road, pulled the cars off the curb, protected the what's called a cycle track, the number of cyclists tripled, speeding dropped precipitously, injury crashes dropped precipitously, yet just as many cars were getting through this facility after as before. And the same with the parallel streets. Because before, people were basically just speeding from red light to red light. So this being New York City, of course, there was a 6-year drawn-out lawsuit, but eventually the bike-hating NIMBY trolls grudgingly surrendered to reality. But I show this picture to remind us that this is the kind of low-stress network that everyone will use, but no one wants their daughter biking in the door zone. And there's another reason not to have door zone bike lanes, which is that people always put stuff in them, right? Trash cans. I collect these. If you have any, send them my way. Trash cans, dumpsters in the bike lane. The Uber who refuses to pull over to the curb sits in the bike lane. Buses in the bike lane. Vans unloading. Police in the bike lane. Bikes in the bike lane. There's always something in the bike lane. So we want our new bike lanes to be protected. And then there's sharrows, which get put in some of the darndest places, right? Who would feel safe on this road with a sharrow? And the studies show that on busy streets, on busy high-volume streets, sharrows do not make the streets safer. I went on Twitter when I read that article and said, who's got a new sharrow symbol that's more accurate? And this one was sent my way. But the winner was Queen Anne Greenways, who made it the prayer row. Please don't hit me in the bike lane. So you've got some sharrows that I would not feel safe biking on, and I'm a pretty aggressive cyclist. We still see a place for sharrows, but just not in these big, wide, busy streets. So this is the current bicycle network. You can see it's okay, but these are pretty much unprotected bike lanes, except for Market now, which is missing from this diagram when this was made. But here's what's coming out of the plan. And you can see the blue streets are protected. So there's going to be a ton of protected bike lanes in this plan. And then finally, the last category, put always stops almost everywhere. Why? Well, we're very over-signaled in the US. This is not a roundabout signal. This is a artwork, but it calls our attention to the cost of these signals. And actually, one of the fears of the two-way reversion is that you're adding signal heads all over the place when you turn a one-way intersection into a two-way intersection, right? Except if you don't need the signal at all. And why would we get rid of the signals? Because it's safer to not have signals. This is the study, the landmark study that's been replicated in small ways, but this is a massive study where Pennsylvania changed their law for warrants, and they said you cannot have a signal anymore in Philadelphia if it doesn't meet a certain volume. They removed 472 signals. They collected a ton of data. Crashes dropped by 24%. Injury crashes dropped by 63%. Severe pedestrian injury crashes dropped by 68%. So one thing we've been doing wherever we work is to replace signals with stop signs. This is Albuquerque, where we recommended removing 17 signals. They took us up on 11 of them, and they bagged the signals and put up these stop signs, and there was a revolt because no one likes change. And so they went back and they bagged the stop signs, and there was a bigger revolt. Because what people realized was, after they'd experienced it both ways, they realized that they were getting through downtown faster as commuters with the stop signs. Because while they were going slow and pausing at every intersection, they were never sitting at a light waiting for it to change. So if you look at this headline from the news, yes, we're trying to reduce speeding, but we're also trying to make traffic flow more smoothly. And that's one thing that stop signs encourage. You've already started doing this in and around downtown or outside of downtown. This is your current signalization regime. so many signals. Our plan removes 34 of them, 34 sets of them in the downtown, which is a lot of signal heads you can sell to some other city. Take that money and put it into your street improvements. But you guys, again, you're already doing this. So right now you're probably aware it's 7th and 8th and Chestnut and Ali and a little bit of Liberty. You've got the signals have been replaced by stop signs, and the two-way travel around your new temporary bus hub is going to be hitting those streets soon, so you get a feeling for how that works. But that's everything. With the focus on safety, I think the plan will do it. That is the full collection of what makes for a safe, walkable downtown that's going to really, I think, change the game. You guys are already doing great. It's kind of hard to imagine what the downtown would be like with these significant changes, but when you've got that whole package, when you've got a downtown that is useful, comfortable, interesting, but also safe, it's going to be just amazing. So a number of people already said, the mayor said, and Rebecca said, something I always say, which is that the downtown's the part of the city that belongs to everybody. And that is absolutely true. Wherever you make your home, the downtown is yours too. And for that reason, investing in the downtown is the only place-based way to benefit all of your citizens at once. But it's more than that. Any relocation decision, whether it's a college graduate or a corporation, is made with an image of place in mind. That image is palpable, it's powerful, it's resolutely physical, and it's the image of the buildings, the streets, the squares, the cafes, and the social life that those places engender. And that image, in most cities, for better or for worse, is the downtown. So when you invest in your downtown, you're investing in the reputation of the city. You're investing in the part of the city that is the rising tide that will lift all ships. And when your downtown is even better than it already is, your city's reputation will be through the roof. And so I hope you will join me in continuing to support downtown's success. And that would be the end of my talk, except I always like to end with some resources. So yes, I'll be signing books out in the back. I hope you will read Walkable City, which is the book that's been most successful at communicating these issues to people who aren't planners. So it's really written for everybody. If you are a planner, if you are active in this space, even as an activist or someone who just wants to get the details right, this is the book you should have as well, called Walkable City Rules. I have a couple TED Talks. If you have friends who couldn't make it and want a 15-minute version of this, go to my name at TED.com, 2 TED Talks. Please support your urban design studio. And also, I just want to make a shout out to Streets for People, who is doing the good work here. They have a table, I think, here in Louisville. And if you look at the E, I did not see this before we made our logo, but our firm now, we're no longer Speck & Associates, we're Speck Dempsey, again, based in Boston. We have a website, speckdempsey.com, where you can find all of these resources that I told you about. That's my talk. Thank you for your support, and thank you for supporting this important change to your downtown.
All right, thank you, Jeff. How great was he? He's here till 2. If you want to buy a book, get him to sign it. So, why does all of this matter? We are on the precipice of yet a new chapter, and we need to ask ourselves, as a community, what's next? How do we think outside the box? And are we confident enough to take the risks? Is it building residential developments on every block, building out our film industry, expanding tourist venues with another unique museum or music venue or cultural arts center? These things help our entire city, and dare I say, our region and our Commonwealth too. I've noticed that the most effective way to get people excited about our downtown is to continually tell our story and use events like today to remind everybody about what actually is happening. Together, the announcements and accomplishments have a cumulative effect on our perception of what we achieve and what we believe, that we can believe in our momentum, our capacity, and our success. We're putting one foot in front of the other, and it's up to all of us to guide our future. Our downtown demonstrates the shared values of our city, of our people: tolerance, diversity, above all, humanity, where everyone is welcome. Downtown truly is the one place where community comes together, and I don't need to tell you how much we are in need of that today. In the end, it's all about people and place. That's it, folks. That's the magic. It's about you and me doing the things. And it's our responsibility to spread the magic, making special places and connections in our downtown, whether it's for fun or for work or for living. So let's get busy living. Thank you for being here today.